Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod with Michael Oliver with us today. He's CEO at Committee of 100 for Economic Development, Inc., located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're going to talk about economic development today. It's going to be a fun one. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com, which is my company for podcasting. If you want to start a pod, if you want to scale a pod, find sponsors, or even get invited to other podcasts, that's the place to go. Podpire.com if you want to start your pod. Michael, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about C100?
Well, thank you, Charles. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. When you called me, I was intrigued by the name Cormier because my last name, Olivier, is French as well. So, of course, I'm always interested in talking to another Francophile, although my French is terrible. And so now you're learning or you've learned Spanish better since you're newly married. Congratulations on your marriage. And
Thank
so you're also in another place that has been on my list to visit, Oaxaca, Mexico, because as I know it, it's the food capital of all of Mexico.
It is. And yeah, it's like for art as well and spirituality as well. So for retreats nowadays, yeah, it's quite amazing. Oaxaca won the best city of Mexico like 4 years straight.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's on my bucket list. And so as I enter retirement in another month, I'll be looking to knock that off my bucket list. And so I may give you a call about some recommendations on restaurants there.
Please do. I'll even accompany you there.
So the Committee of 100 for Economic Development was started in 1992. And it started out of a need to create a business person's body of people to influence public policy at the state level in Louisiana. Now, they do have some interest in national political issues, but the focus has always been public policy as it affects business and industry, and the ability to attract business to our state, but also the ability to keep business in our state. So what does that mean? All of these years, what has that meant? Well, it means that in a state like Louisiana, who has a very high poverty level, we obviously have a high poverty level because we do not have a strong level of education. And so we've got a significant portion of our population who have poor education, who do not have any sort of certifications, even after high school. If they have a high school diploma, they have no other certifications, particularly to those people who are single parents, trying to achieve a better standard of living. That is an obstacle. And so we're constantly trying to influence public policy issues at the state level that will impact that and make for a better situation. This organization started, as I said, in 1992. It is comprised today of over 100, in fact, 140 CEOs and presidents of business and industry in our state. We also have about 14 university presidents who are involved with us, and they contribute to our body of information, particularly as it relates to education. Education is one of the 4 features of our work in public policy, along with taxes and state finance, transportation, and public security. Those things are important. Now, we have a lot of other issues in the state, but we feel we started with those because, to borrow a phrase from someone, we determined we couldn't fix everything at one time, and they said you cannot boil the ocean. So let's choose those 4 things that could be the forerunners that would impact on so many other things that are wrong in our state that need to be fixed. So certainly our tax policies, our state finance issues, education, transportation, and public security, public safety, those are important features.
How did you get there?
Well, I was invited to joined the organization in 2009. I completed a stint of work with the state of Louisiana on the cabinet of Governor Kathleen Blanco from 2004 to 2005. We spent a great deal of our time recovering from Hurricanes Katrina and Hurricane Rita. During that time, in 2008, when I left office, I went to work in Dubai for a private company manufacturing composite pipe, much of which was focusing on the water industry, desalination plants, and those sorts of things in the Middle East and Europe. But they were entering the U.S. market, hopefully to get into the not only water markets, but also the fracking market and the general contracting market as relates to civil engineering, water and sewer projects, that sort of thing that could be managed with composite pipes as an alternative to metal pipe. So I was there for about 18 months until I got the opportunity to come back to Louisiana and work in Louisiana in the state capital of Baton Rouge with this organization, which is a Business Roundtable. Now, in the United States, there are 35 states that have Business Roundtables. We are not chambers of commerce, don't intend to be. The membership is by invitation. It is a focused path to use the influence of the membership to change public policy, particularly those things that affect business and industry. And I find that to be the same for every one of these organizations in the other 34 states in which we have Business Roundtables, from California to Hawaii. So this work is different in that it is association management, but it's also public policy work. And we operate with what is called a memorandum of understanding with the State Department of Economic Development, which means in Louisiana, it's the governor's cabinet member who is the secretary of economic development. So that means we get to work with the governor and we provide private sector support where they feel it could help to both influence companies considering bringing investment to Louisiana, and companies who are considering staying in Louisiana. We want them to feel comfortable about why they should stay in Louisiana. So they may have issues and we want to help represent those issues. Mostly those issues deal with training, education, tax policies. Those are the primary things. Today, more importantly, I guess, public security has become a very important feature, which, as you know, years ago, that was never high up on the list. It was always an issue, certainly, but today, at least for us, it's one of the top 4.
What challenges was C100 facing when you came on, and have you resolved most of these now that you've been there for a while?
Well, the biggest challenge we had was we had dwindled in numbers under 100, 73 to be exact. So my charge was to build the organization back to 100 members. We've done that. We're at 140 members today. They don't want to become the committee of 200. They want to keep it as exclusive as they like it. And so they want the ability to be able to use the gravitas of the membership to influence public policy. That means whether it's a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, we operate in a way that doesn't give any influence to any of those parties. So we want to operate as independently as possible. We don't care who's governor. We want to work with that governor to make Louisiana a better state. We have achieved that. In 1992 through the 1990s, they started with a program called a Committee for a Secure Louisiana. They hired one of the big 4 accounting firms at the time to the tune of a couple $1 million to determine what were the things that needed to be fixed in our state government that could be done through legislation and done administratively by the governor's office to make Louisiana a better place to live and work. a large number of those recommendations were introduced and passed by legislation. But everything's cumulative. It takes a long time to introduce ideas, to introduce concepts, and to win champions within the legislature, within the public body, public sector, to get people behind an idea, get people to support a concept. And so that led later to another project called Blueprint Louisiana, and that led to a broad project called Reset Louisiana. Again, we've been focusing on Reset Louisiana for the past 4 years, but the difference is that we have partnered with 2 other good government groups called the Committee for a Better Louisiana and the committee, and also the Committee of 100 has partnered with the Public Affairs Research Council. These are 2 groups. One specializes primarily in the area of research on education and its impact. The other, the Public Affairs Research Council, focuses on tax policy primarily. And recently, they've gotten into the public safety area.
I'm just wondering, why does Louisiana or some parts of it have lower education vs other states? Because you guys have oil. Was there a decline into this? And yet, obviously, Hurricane Katrina had a devastating effect, but what affects this low education rate, and how has it been moving up, hopefully, the education rate in Louisiana in the last decade?
Poverty. Poverty is the reason why we have poor education standards. Poverty is the
doesn't like
reason.
one create the other? Is it like
Yes, it leads. It's a follow-on. That's correct. It's a follow-on. When you have high poverty levels, you're going to have poor education levels. And that's been our experience, and that's what we've been fighting against. For instance, we feel like to help that, we decided to join with other groups in our state that were involved in early childhood education. Because we realized that the earlier, and the science tells us, you should start children learning at age 2, not 7. Start them at the age 2 where they can begin distinguishing not only colors and letters, but also social practices, how to get along with other people. All of these things inure to the benefit of a better learning environment, which means you have a better worker, the ability to learn better, and therefore the ability to earn better. So they're going to have a higher standard of living. And all of those things we've had success with, by the way. So although we still have dismal numbers compared to other states, perhaps, we are improving. We've improved, for instance, at the year 4 level, we've had a program called LA4 that's been implemented for the past 10 years, and it is showing great prospects, which is why we are wanting to extend that free education opportunities for children age 3. Heretofore, our state has put very little funding into age 3 education, but it's a workforce issue. If we can give a single parent an opportunity to have their child in a center, a learning center, this is not just daycare, a learning center, then that person can go to work and be paying taxes, not just collecting a check from the government services. So it's instilling a better environment from their work to provide for their families, but it's a model for the children too, that they can achieve more if they work. And so these things don't happen overnight. We have to introduce programs that can be taken advantage of. We have to discover what are the obstacles to that advantage. For instance, a single parent gets their child into an education facility at age 3 or 4. How do they get them there if they do not have an automobile, if there's no public transportation? And if they get them there, how do they go to work? And how do they get back to collect that child from where they have them in a school. So all of these things have to be considered and they have to be dealt with. And we are dealing with it, but it's a slow process. We are looking now for more than the $90 million in funds that we provide this year for early childhood education. We would like to see double that put into early childhood education, which would hopefully alleviate a situation for a single parent who can then go to work and become part of the resolution, the solution, rather than part of the problem.
Right. We don't see a lot of unicorns come out of Louisiana. How could we increase this startup life and ecosystem in there?
Well, that is a process as well. It's part of the education process. We're seeing more of that, not only in this state, but in other states. We talk about this in economic development leadership programs and economic development practitioner programs throughout the United States and North America, frankly, about how do you create the environment for the entrepreneurism to occur? How do these unicorns grow? How do we share the information with others so they can see it's possible? Then what do they need beyond money? They need to be educated. They need to learn and socialize in an environment where they don't look to drug dependencies or to the wrong forms of commerce, selling drugs, to make money, but to the right forms of commerce that are productive. So we are attuning to that. Many of the economic development groups that I'm familiar with focus on that. They make it part of their programs today. I'm part of a group from the International Economic Development Council that does accreditations for economic development agencies. On that committee, I, among others, are assigned jobs of reviewing certifications and accreditations for economic development groups. We look for that to be part of their mission today. So they focus on not only small business development, but also on entrepreneurial development and giving people the understanding and the tools of what is it going to take beyond giving them some money, right? That's not the only answer. The answer is they got to have it. How do I do this? And to know I can do this. And to hear it from others who do it, who did it, and see that they are able to do it too.
I see a bunch of industries here. So the port of New Orleans, that seems to be a nice shipping route, maybe even from Mexico to the US. See a bunch of industries that could have huge potentials as well. Tourism comes to mind. What other sectors could Louisiana be highly competitive vs the other states in the world?
Well, today, as you know, we are becoming leaders in liquefied natural gas production and supply. And the next step is in the area of carbon capture and sequestration. And from that, the development of methane, the development of hydrogen. These are the future fuels that we need to get to move away from the fossil fuel situation, but to create a less environmental impact that fuels our economy. And I'm talking about production of electricity, heat, transportation, all of those things. By the way, let me ask you, Charles, do you know what the largest tonnage port in America is?
Nope.
It's the port of South Louisiana. It is not the port of New Orleans. And the reason for that is the port of South Louisiana, located below Baton Rouge and before New Orleans, is a terminus for significant grain shipments. Companies like Archer, Daniels, Midland. Huge grain silos. Shipping that grain the least expensive way from the Midwest to the south of Louisiana is by the Mississippi River. And then loading it onto the grain transportation going to the world. And so that's why by tonnage, the Port of South Louisiana is the largest, using that metric of tonnage only. So we need to take these unique things about Louisiana, the future of alternative energy, the future of, and the need for shipping things like grain, and the great opportunity of the commercial transportation of the Mississippi River, so that we can excel in the areas, not only of agriculture, but in so many other things.
One last question for you. With all that you've accomplished up to now, what are your top 3 goals for the remaining of this year? And if you can tell us about the objectives of the next year, what they look like.
Top 3 goals for me is to finish this next month so I can retire. And then I'll be onboarding a new chief executive here with the Committee of 100. And I'll be looking forward to seeing my grandchildren a whole lot more than I do, since they live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I don't see them as much as I'd like. And the third thing is I have to fulfill this bucket list to see the world. And so, you know, I just last week had to take Egypt off my list because of the situation in that part of the world. And so every time something happens in another part of the world, you know, I have to either take it off the bucket list or postpone it. Fortunately, I visited Croatia last month, so I got to see that part of the world that I wanted to explore. And I'm looking to keep our health, don't we all? I mean, you're the Iron Man, so keeping your health is very important. Maybe the top of the list.
It is, yes. How are you doing that? Are you working out, eating healthy? Like, what's your regimen?
I don't think any of us, except you, work out enough or eat well enough to, or properly eat, so that we produce a more healthy body. I've been recovering from back surgery for the last year, and this is the first time. These last couple of months is the first time since my surgery a year ago that I feel like a human being, that I can walk upright and play golf again. And that's been a wonderful thing. So as I enter retirement, my goals are to have a healthier diet and to be able to exercise more. At the age of 73, I'll see how much that means, whether that's you know, the ability to run or not. I don't think so, but I sure am going to play a lot more golf.
There you go. Love it. Thank you for today, Michael. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, you can certainly find out more about me through the Committee of 100 website, which is www.c100la.org. But I'll be listed on Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook and on LinkedIn.
I'm Charles Cormier, host of CEO Wisdom Podcast. That was Michael Oliver.